Hello, everyone. I'm Wilson, and in this talk, Kimberly and I are presenting on a recent trend in technical communication, the practices of YouTube beauty influencers. Specifically, we discuss two of the most recent scholarly conversations addressing this trend, as well as the problematic ways in which our field's organizational assumption might obscure these practices.
As many scholars have discussed before, in our field, we operate under an organizational assumption, meaning we tend to prioritize the technical communications that center on large organizations and their practices. This prioritization tends to obscure the technical communication practices of individuals who, as Miles Kimball argues, are outside of, between, and even counter to organizations.
In 2018, Felicia Chong and Lahua Ledbetter each wrote articles appearing in leading journals within the field. Their articles addressed the technical communication practices of YouTube beauty influencers. They argued that YouTube beauty influencers, also known as beauty gurus, help us see the potential of other forms of technical communication, those that are extra institutional, tactical, and or resistant to the organizational assumption.
Specifically, Chong seeks to extend current conversation regarding the instructional video genre in the field within the last several years. Although there has been much discussion, there remains an insufficient amount of attention regarding the instructional videos produced by YouTube beauty gurus. Chong argues that gurus utilize the same instructional practices scholars in our field have recommended, discussed, and analyzed. These practices, at least according to the works of Matt Moraine, Jason Swartz, Hans and Jan van der Meij, and many others, include clarity, conciseness, efficiency, an introduction that frames the scope of the video, a more procedural structure than a narrative, and so on. All of these factors are what makes a good instructional videos, these scholars argue. Therefore, Chong conducted a qualitative study on the 10 most popular beauty tutorials of all time to test this hypothesis. She found that most of these YouTubers are in fact utilizing these best practices. However, Chong also notes that many of these YouTubers utilize their own rhetorical practices, or rather strategies, that often defy the conventions our field has established for instructional videos. It is these unique rhetorical practices that Lehua Ledbetter directs our attention to, whereas Chong attempts to situate the technical communication practices of these influencers within our field. Ledbetter examines how their practices are counter to our fields.
In a rhetorical move analysis of two beauty gurus, Ledbetter examines the various rhetorical strategies used by these gurus. She claims these individuals challenge what constitutes usable procedural discourse by enacting unique rhetorical strategies and disregarding expectations of video quality and the assertion of expertise as ethos. Two of the most significant rhetorical strategies used by YouTube beauty influencers, Ledbetter finds, are instruction and storytelling. In order to provide instruction, YouTube beauty influencers use strategies developed in diverse and minority communities to construct ethos as instructors, while at the same time creating rhetorical space for women within the online beauty community. This problematizes the notion of credibility by linking it closely to identity expression, audience interactivity, and enactment of a shared community specific language. Perhaps the most significant rhetorical move Ledbetter emphasizes in her research is storytelling. Storytelling helps foster identity building, relationship and credibility building, and even marketing. Storytelling, while at the same time evaluating products and instructing on their use, allows the diverse members of online beauty communities to build credibility and embody an agency that they can then leverage for power, otherwise unavailable to them.
Given the research Chong and Ledbetter presented, we conclude that the organizational assumption is present within the instructional video genre. Despite this being a newer genre within the field, it is still entrenched with traditional ideologies that privilege the discourses and institutions of men. Yet again, we must reconsider what we label as technology and what constitutes a workplace. For the articles situate beauty as a technology and YouTube as a workplace.
Given the size and scale of the beauty industry, which is a multi-billion-dollar industry, it is surprising that very few scholars have addressed the technical communication practices at work in this industry. We, therefore, propose more research is needed to further this discussion, for the field can learn a lot from the practices of YouTube beauty influencers.